Morning, everyone. A few days ago, Justin Trudeau gave a speech in the House of Commons talking about the blockades. And, this is part of it. Here we go. Certainly not all of it. It's a 7-minute speech on reconciliation. He missed the blockade part. Here we go.
Because, Mr. Speaker, what is the alternative? Do we want to become a country of irreconcilable differences, where people talk but refuse to listen? Where politicians are ordering police to arrest people. A country where people think they can tamper with rail lines and endanger lives. This is simply unacceptable. We cannot...
And he goes on, but fundamentally, a few days later, so this was, I think, the 18th, February 18th, and by February 24th, Global News says OPP arrest multiple protesters at Mohawk Rail blockade. I'm not going to go through this one, but the link is in the description if you want to. Here's another article. This is from yesterday. Today's the 26th. CTV News is reporting Transport Minister confirms police will be moving in on new blockades. Transport Minister Marc Garneau says provincial police will be moving in to respond to injunctions against new blockades sprouting up across Canada in solidarity with Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs who oppose a planned natural gas pipeline in British Columbia. Again, I say, it is absolutely ridiculous that the press grants these people the credibility of the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chief's name. What do you have to do to claim? Like, I can do this in the name of Greta, and then the paper will say, Greta Thunberg activist Mark blah, 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 does this because in her name. Like, I think it's just insane because these people are provably not Wet'suwet'en. Like, just taking a look at them from images in the media, they're not. By and large, most of them aren't even Indigenous. So First Nations, right? So it is just crazy to me. Why is the press granting them so much credibility? It bothers me. I think that the press should be better. These people are just terrorists. They're breaking the law by trespassing on the railway and shutting it down. That is not, you don't have a right to do that in Canada. You may have a right to protest. You may have a right to free speech. Free expression. I think that's what the Constitution says. So you don't actually have a right to free speech. You have a right to free expression. And in Canada, they can shut that down, kind of, which is interesting, isn't it? So I think that it's very, very, very beyond the pale that the press grants so much credibility to these people who just say, oh yeah, we're doing this in solidarity with the Wet'suwet'en chiefs, hereditary chiefs, who don't represent the land, who don't represent the tribe, who aren't elected by their people, whose only claim to power is that their parents were in power. Let's do it for the Queen of England. Yeah, that's how things work in Canada. You get off my land because the railway here is my land now. What? It doesn't even make sense. It is the job of the newspaper to inform, and these newspapers are coloring this, are granting credibility where none exists. So just be aware of it. Sorry, I go off on a tangent, but it's important. It's important. Okay, back to this. Who oppose the pipeline in British Columbia. Speaking to reporters on Parliament Hill on Tuesday, Garneau said that some of the new blockades have been, quote, temporarily stopping the trains. The provincial police will be moving in and responding to the injunctions that have been put in, Garneau said. He said he didn't know when the provincial police will be taking action against the new blockades, as that decision is up to the provincial police and authorities. This planned police intervention comes just one day after the Ontario Provincial Police moved against a rail blockade that had been set up by the Mohawk tribe. I'm not going to try the name of the tribe right now, but near Belleville, Ontario, and charged 10 protesters. While the first train ran through the newly cleared tracks in this town on Monday night, it remained the only train to pass through the area as of Tuesday afternoon. CN Rail would not comment on why the service has yet to fully resume. Following the Monday arrest, multiple solidarity protests and blockades emerged across Canada. Among those new protests were a blockade that halted a regional transit service near Hamilton and a rolling blockade set up by another Mohawk band on Quebec Honoré Mercier Bridge. And that's where I'll leave this story. Except that here is the Toronto Police this morning at 4:23 a.m. says after providing protesters with an injunction and encouraging a peaceful departure, Toronto Police began moving protesters from rail tracks in the area of Lambton area. Most protesters were cooperative. Arrests were made when necessary. Our goal is always Our goal is always public safety, and we will continue to work with our public and private sector partners to maintain the integrity of the city's critical infrastructure. An update on the number of arrests made and charges laid will be released later this morning. And I said, can you just enforce the laws? It's insanity that you need to justify arresting terrorists. And yeah, if you're using terrorist tactics like shutting down infrastructure and breaking the law, we have rule of law, right? Like if a yellow vest protest would get arrested for doing this, then why isn't this protest? Again, can you just invoke someone's name, right? Oh, I'm not doing this for the yellow vest. I'm doing this for the Queen of England. I'm doing this for Saint Greta, right? Can you do that and then get away with it? Because it seems like yes, if you do it for the Wet'suwet'en in this case, and you don't have to be native and you don't have to be Canadian. You see, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. And this is not keeping people safe. Keeping people safe would be enforcing the law. It's like when you drive nice on the road, right? You stop to let somebody out of a driveway, and then they trust you, so they come out of the driveway, and then the car who's obeying the rules of the road and driving in the other lane hits the guy who's coming out because he was making a left and you were being nice. Right? You have to do what's expected. And if you don't, you're incentivizing people to terrorize our economy. Right? Oh, please, guys, could you just obey the law? You see here, this is private property, like everybody knows on the news and like you know because you're standing here, so we're going to arrest you. Jesus. Jeepers creepers. Excuse me. It's just frustrating, maddening, right? Rule of law used to mean something, and now it means, could you please move your little protest off the tracks for a minute? We've got a train coming through. No? Oh, okay. It's a joke. It's a joke. Rule of law is a joke in Canada at this point in time. Here's the Toronto Sun reporting. Scarborough murder was alleged terrorist act. Source. This is a quick one. It's really just wild. Evidence uncovered at the scene of a grisly murder Friday night in Scarborough prompted the Crown to prosecute the crime as a terrorist act. Sources tell the Toronto Sun a note found under the body of 64-year-old Heng Kam Annie Chu, sorry if I've got any of that wrong, who was bludgeoned to death with a hammer near Shepherd Ave East and Markham Road, said the accused Saad Akhtar, 30 of Toronto, allegedly committed the murder for, quote, terrorist reasons. I don't know why that's in quotes, unless he wrote on the sheet, terrorist reasons. You'd think like we'd get verbatim what he said, right? Like you'd think, and maybe not. Maybe he was saying like for the glory of whatever his God is or whatever, right? Who knows? Maybe that's why. But you'd think they'd give something other than this weird quote. Terrorist reasons? Why did you kill this person? Terrorist reasons. Okay, all right. We're going to charge you under the Terrorist Crime Act then. It's weird. It just seems weird. Anyway, Chu was walking home around 7:15 when she was attacked. The source said Akhtar allegedly walked for 15 minutes to 42 Division at 242 Milner Ave, where he turned himself in. He allegedly told officers he was in possession of an explosive device, prompting an evacuation of the police station. Chu was a random target, according to the source. Akhtar was charged with first-degree murder for the purpose of terrorism in connection with the crime. Due to the unusual nature of the charge, both provincial and federal Crown prosecutors will handle the case against him together. Appearing in court Tuesday morning, Akhtar was coherent and answered the questions posed to him by Justice Robert Kelly. Chu was the city's 11th homicide of 2020. Moving on. Remember this? The Post-Millennial reporting that liberals fundraise in New York City mid-election, breaking transparency promise. Report. I know I usually talk more about this. This is just sad. And I think this just underlines the breakdown of the diversity is our strength edict, right? You just keep repeating it, doesn't make it true. And it just makes me sad, right? This isn't a good thing to report. This isn't, I don't like this. I wish that our cities were safer. I can't believe there's not more public outrage on this. Okay? It's just, again, it's maddening, right? It's the police apologizing for having to do their jobs, but not doing their jobs, right? It's people getting run over by cars. It's every morning waking up to gunshots and stabbings. And everybody's saying, the way to fix this? Let's ban handguns. Yeah, we're great. Banning drugs worked wonderfully, didn't it? Yeah, it wasn't expensive at all. Totally took drugs off the street, right? Right, morons. So it's just insanity. All of it. It's just like, it's like a toddler's running things, and you can't reason with the toddler, and you can't wrestle the power from the toddler. It's unbelievable. And this goes from everybody from John Tory and other small town mayors getting woke and giving away whatever to the United Nations, control to the United Nations, all the way up to Justin Trudeau and his ridiculous, let's not use the rule of law to make sure protesters understand where it's appropriate to protest. Let's make sure we understand the difference between an appropriate dialogue between First Nations and the Canadian government and crazy peripheral hereditary chiefs that usurp power in the name of other people, right? Especially when they're funded by foreign organizations. It's frustrating. And moving on to election laws. Good. I don't know if that's a good, what is it? Transfer? Oh, I can't remember the word. Segue. Segue is the word. Okay. Anyway, terrible segue. Back to this. Liberal fundraise in New York City, mid-election breaking transparency promise. This was 4 months ago. I wish they'd have the date on it, but whatever. 4 months ago was in the middle of the fall and the campaign, etc. Here's Candace Malcolm as well. Former Clinton aide organized private liberal election fundraiser in New York City. This is October 15th, 6 days before the Canadian 2019 election that re-elected Justin Trudeau into his minority. But it is illegal to have foreign money funding any campaigns, and the Liberals who did that, well, are being reported on here. Here is the North Bay Nugget. It says Federal Minister Marc Miller won't reveal New York donor list report. And this is from the Toronto Sun. There is absolutely no reporting about this. Nothing in the news, nothing in CBC, nothing in anywhere. I looked for Marc Miller donors. Nothing. Here it is. I just wanted to show you. It's insane. Like CBC, CNBC, I guess CNBC wouldn't be doing it. CTV, none of them. Toronto Sun's the only one who's running with this story. Federal Minister Marc Miller won't reveal New York donors list. So and it's not like it was a secret. Like there are multiple, Blacklocks broke the story, right? So you can get the original link here. I'm not a Blacklocks member, but I think they do good work. And they're cited by lots of credible journalists in Canada. And so I think that it's very interesting that major media is not running with this. You can't find this story. Here's Senator Frum. Now I tried to get this down to, oh my goodness, I'm already at 12 minutes. Okay, so this is 2 minutes of Senator Frum grilling the leader of the Senate on exactly this. She says, the tweet says, today I asked Trudeau's leader in the Senate if he will provide our chamber with the list of names of those who attended Minister Marc Miller's campaign fundraiser in New York in October 2019. All Canadians must follow Canadian election laws. And like the setup and everything is really worthwhile watching. His answer is worth watching because he stumbles all over the place. He's got ums and ahs. And ultimately, she says, like, we should be able to see the names. And he says, oh, I hadn't heard about that. I'll ask around. Okay, so that's the whole video in a very short clip. But have a watch. I'm not going to play it because I don't have any time. And here's the story. I'm not going to read it because you essentially get it. They held a fundraiser in New York. This guy's involved. And well, it's a big story. And people are interested in why Liberals can flagrantly break election laws and nobody cares. Why is that? I think that's an interesting thing to note in our rule of law society, where rule of law means please, please, please abide by the laws. No, okay, we're going to go make sure that we're allowed to enforce this law because you belong to, or you say you belong to, something that we're not allowed to touch right now. Why is that? Why is that in Canada? Hey, but these guys, rule of law. But we'll break some election laws and head on down to New York for a fundraiser. Rule of law, Liberal style. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com and have a wonderful, wonderful